update to the previous Arcane Mage video I've watched. If you're looking for the real in-depth guide on talent choices and why I chose what I chose, please be sure to check out that video first. I'll put an annotation in this video. If you got to this from the other video's annotation, thumbs up. That was kind of the plan. Now, when I made that first video, I was rating Frost as my main spec, and I just wanted to get out the other guides on basic rotation. And I took a lot of the feedback I got in the comments, both good and bad, and I wanted to do an update video on how I'm rating Arcane now. Arcane is my main spec. As you can see, my gear level has gotten up there a little bit, and I'm able to stack mastery now. So I wanted to show the glyphs that I'm using now, the rotation I'm using now, and the talents that I'm using now and what they're doing, and they're allowing me to rank. You can check us out on World of Logs. We raid with Wined and Dined. Make sure to check out the user-created logs and see draws. Alright, so for talent choices, a little bit different than what I did in the other video, and here's why. I'm taking Flame Glow right now because we're working on mythic content, and just that 30% damage reduction overall seems to be the best right now. I feel like maybe I'll end up going back to Alter Time a little bit later, but in a progression fight where we're learning, I'm just going to go with that passive. Alright, for 75, I'm going with Nether Tempest. Nether Tempest works really nice with your Prismatic Crystal for that burst damage. You do get 2 charges of it. Now 90, I'm switching constantly between Rune of Power and Incanter's Flow, depending on if you can stand still or if there's movement. If you can stand still, you're using Rune of Power. If you need to move, go ahead and use Incanter's Flow. For level 100, on trash, like leading up to the boss, if you really want to help your guild, if you're not going to be that lazy guy that goes AFK during trash, throw on an Arcane Orb and just crush trash. It does really nice cleave. It builds your stacks up real quick so you can start barrage spamming and just crushing AoE to get through it quicker. But for a boss fight, you're going to use Prismatic. As far as glyphs go, there's nothing for Arcane that is really going to increase your single target DPS, except maybe Rapid Displacement. Gives you 2 charges of blink. This allows you to blink around quicker because Arcane, when you're standing still, you're doing that DPS, so you want to get from point A to point B a lot quicker. I use Arcane Explosion for trash. I use Cone of Cold for trash. Now you're going to ask why I don't use Arcane Power. So the glyph of Arcane Power increases the duration and the cooldown of Arcane Power by 100%. That's great, unless you're using Prismatic Crystal. An unglyphed Arcane Power lines up perfectly with a Prismatic Crystal so that you have it off cooldown every time that Prismatic Crystal is up, which makes a lot more sense to me. I was not doing this before. I took some of the YouTube feedback, I switched it out, and I really like what I've seen. As far as gear goes, you're looking for mastery gear. You really want to stack mastery. Around 50% raid buffed is where you want to be for this spec. If you're looking to go fire, which I kind of am, I'm stockpiling that crit gear, but you got to wait till you're about 50% crit. So right now, self-buffed, I am at 43%. With a raid buff, it goes to about 53 to 56, depending on which hunter pet is out, and if we have the proper mastery buffs. So your priority here is always int, obviously, followed by close second by mastery. You want to stack that mastery. That mastery is going to do more damage the more mana that you have, and that is how Arcane works. Lastly, your crit and your multi-strike are about equal. Right now mine are about 14 and 16% respectively. You want to keep those about where they're at. Haste falls to the wayside, and then versatility at the very end. So that's the stat priority. So I'll go over a rotation on what I do with this spec, then I'll show it to you guys at full speed, and we'll take it from there. So with this, much like I did in the first video, you have 2 phases. You have a burn phase where you want to dump your mana to 50%. And then you want to evocate back up to full mana and you want to go into your maintain phase. Your maintain phase, you do not want to let your mana drop below about 85 to 90%. So we're keeping up that high mana, so we're taking advantage of our mastery. Now the way I do this is I'll pre-pot, not going to waste one here. I'll pop my macro. My macro is in the other video, but just for fun, I'll go ahead and show it to you. I do a show tooltip for arcane power. I use Shards of Nothing, that's my trinket. If you don't have it, just delete that line. I use Berserking because I'm a troll. And I use my arcane power. Now I have mirror images in here because I'm lazy, and if I ever decide to put mirror images into my rotation, I don't have to change my macro. So really all you're doing is I'm lining up my Berserking, my haste trinket, and my arcane power into one button. So what I do, make sure you have your buffs up. Like I said, I'll pre-pot, pop my macro, pop lust, drop the crystal. I'm going to do 2 supernovas and then start spamming Arcane Blast. Now here I'm going to spam until this crystal disappears. Crystal is gone. Now that I have 3 charges of arcane missiles, I'll use those in my burn phase and then go back to spamming. Now you spam till you're just under about 50%. Dump all your missiles, barrage, evocate up to full. Now you're in your maintain phase. Maintain consists of 4 arcane blasts, 2, 3, 4. Dump your missile procs. Use any supernovas, barrage, and back to it. Mana's at 100%. I can do this all day. Now you're going to do this until your prismatic crystal and your arcane power come off of cooldown. Once those do come off of cooldown, you will pop your macro again, pop your crystal, and dump all of your mana into those arcane blasts. Now you really want to make sure that you have your crystal positioned correctly. I've done it more times than I would like to admit. I'm just excited that my crystal's up, not paying attention to the fight mechanics and when the boss is going to move, so I'll drop my crystal, and then for whatever case I have to move, so I'm not getting all that DPS, or the boss moves away from my crystal and it was a complete waste. So learning the fights is really, really key here. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys this at full speed. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Make sure to check out the podcast at podbros.com. We're also video casting here on the channel under the Players vs. Podcast playlist. Alright guys, take care, like, subscribe.